I know you said fandoms, but I didn't really want to say just fandoms. But
Tunes with a bad rap.
what the bad rep? Sorry,
Essentially have a bad rap.
cartoons that have a bad rap. Yeah. Um, that's the one I think of first is Rick and Morty, and I like Rick and Morty. Unfortunately, I think the Szechuan sauce really set off people. So, and
It was probably the catalyst of everything that went wrong with Rick and Morty's
yeah,
reputation.
and it's not necessarily them too. It's just well, which goes into fandoms, which I didn't really want to just. I mean, it's not. It's just to me, I kind of look at it like how people hate Family Guy now. When Rick and Morty first showed up, I thought of it as Family Guy. Family Guy was just so different, and the humor was different, and even the stories were so different that I liked it, and it was interesting. But as Family Guy went on, I mean, I think I remember the joke that made me realize I don't like this show anymore. And that was when they did a cutaway where Peter said, "Everybody, Mr. Tom Petty," and they show 3 or 4 minutes of him singing a
Oh god,
song.
I hated that.
And I bought the DVD. I'm like, I spent money for this joke that is going on for this. Like, this joke is still going, even though it's not a joke. He's just singing a song. And they go back and like, weren't you entertained? And I think they said no. Like, that was a waste or something. And I'm like, I don't like this. And then
It's that one episode that did that, but like it would only start it off and then it would end it after like a few seconds. That's like fine. But then there was put like an entire freaking song in there, and it's like, really? This is like 5 minutes of nothing.
yeah, it was like I don't know. Whenever that song was on, 70s or 80s, whatever, and it's like it, because I would say when you watch Family Guy, you kind of want that fast humor, which is what it's known for. The cutaways. The story isn't typically that great. You're more there to see, I guess, the jabs on topical things. And I don't know. I've seen so many videos online that talk about where it went wrong, and just I don't watch it anymore. But all these videos I see now talk about like how hateful and awful the show has become. It's like I haven't watched it in years now.
Occasionally have Adult Swim on in the background, mainly because like shows like are so like relaxed and just down to earth that if I'm drawing late at night or something, it's great on in the background. But then it'll usually segue into Cleveland Show or Family Guy, and sometimes I'll catch the more recent Family Guys in that, and I don't really care for Cleveland Show either. Um, and yeah, they've gotten a lot more gory and a lot more hateful. There's just a lot of like Stewie is gay and in love with Brian jokes. There's literally an episode where it ends with Brian having to eat Stewie's. There's a lot of Meg hate. There's actually an episode where Meg snaps at her whole family, and then it goes back to the status quo, and she's like, "No, you can't abuse me
Yeah,
again."
I think
And it's like, no.
the title of that episode, I think, is like Seashell Party or something. I saw some of that when it was on TV, and I'm just like, oh, yeah. I mean, I know that was a running gag. Everybody hates Meg, and we trash her every second we can. I kind of felt bad for Mila Kunis because of that, but
It's one thing when you have a character that gets like the short end of the stick for like a joke, or like they're just a nasty person, and occasionally I'll rag on them, like Squidward and old SpongeBob is like that,
I was wondering how
or
he compared
like
to Squidward. Yeah, because I didn't grow up with SpongeBob. That's the old most of the jokes I see is like, oh, Squidward is the butt of this joke too.
old SpongeBob. Squidward was the Grouch. Like he was the I can't remember his freaking name. Like, you know, Dennis the Menace, his older neighbor who could be kind of
Mr.
like a jerk
Wilson.
sometimes. Yeah, Mr. Wilson. He's the Mr. Wilson
Oh,
to SpongeBob and Patrick's Dennis, and he'll get his comeuppance from time to time for trying to ruin their fun, or like he'll try to partake in the fun after making fun of them when they're not looking, and he'll do that too. Like, you know, it's like that's fine. That's funny because you know he was an asshole this whole time, and now he's getting what he deserves for being an asshole. But with Meg, she's not doing anything most of the time, and that's another thing with recent Squidward too. Is like he's not doing anything. Why are you abusing him?
Some people have said that about Jerry in Rick and Morty, and I didn't really realize how much they harp on him. But it's like, yeah, they do. But I don't. I want to say it works, but I can't back it up.
Jerry's thing, I think it, from what I've seen, jerk, and like he's not in a good marriage. Like
No, it's
I'd be better off without him.
it's like kind of, I guess I would say, realistic in comparison to the Squidward and Meg thing, as
Kind of
science
a
fictiony as it is.
that isn't very likable, and people feel sorry for him. And I almost feel like he's in a relationship because Beth feels sorry for him, even though they completely like they don't mesh together well at all.
No.
And in fact, there's a thing in the comics where like leaves Jerry early and raises Summer on her own, and then they're both just successful, and Beth never becomes an alcoholic.
That sounds like, yeah. That sounds like a, was that the first interdimensional cable episode? As I think about it.
There's a lot of instances like that. Like I've seen some scans of the comics, and I know that they touch on like different dimension versions of the characters more often than not. And I guess one that recently came out was like being with a supportive Beth, and she had no sibling because, quote, Rick totally let herself get knocked up by Jerry once, and she learned her lesson.
Just trying to think, because I've heard some people say about how the show, because I think my brother, first episode he ever watched of Rick and Morty, he loves the show, but first one he saw was Pickle Rick, and that's one hell of an episode to start with, because there's a lot of development in there, and there's a lot of crazy stuff going on.
That's another thing. That episode is notorious for the "I'm Pickle Rick" meme and how bad that was received.
Really,
but it's like a good episode.
I don't mind it, but like any meme, it gets overused, and I don't know. Some memes I like, some I don't. I mean, I like the show. What's really funny is I love how out of control it can be, but it like makes sense. I mean, and some of the jokes just land so funny. I mean, what's fun to see is the Gravity Falls stuff they can squeeze in there, the references. But I forgot where I was going with this now.
It's okay, take your time.
What was it? But there's this subtle emotion, and you really feel for these characters too. I mean, every one of them. I mean, I remember who was it? It was probably Pearl from Steven Universe. I mean, first I'm like, oh, I hate Pearl because she's, she's just the uptight wound gem, mother of the bunch, and just like Rick and Morty, there's a lot of depth to the characters. I think I was the same way with Beth, because Beth is just the other mother who's just, you understand why she's upset, but you learn a lot about her, and you learn what she has to deal with, and it's like, oh, that makes sense. And it turns out to be a lot of funny situations. I do feel bad when she shot Mr. Poopy Butthole.
You couldn't say it with a straight face.
I couldn't. Ooh-wee is what death feels like. Ooh, yeah. I mean, it's you feel for him, but you're laughing, and there's some. The show
Butthole.
is dark to begin with, but you enjoy it.
Despite you mentioning that the show is dark, I went to Walmart the other day. I was browsing the toy section because occasionally I'd like to look for Mario collectibles. I have a problem. They have like Let Go, but it's like this other brand, and they have a lot of like TV licenses. They had Rick and Morty toys in the kids section. That was really bizarre for me.
I guess they
had South Park toys in there too.
To be fair, I don't know where else you'd put it in the store, but yeah, South Park. Wow, man.
More like a Hot Topic kind of area, or like putting it with like the electronics, because they've got like
it's not
toys in there too.
I hate to think that. Well, maybe they just. I'm trying to think how you would describe that. I mean, To me, it's like The Simpsons. When I was much younger, my parents would not let me watch The Simpsons, and they essentially warmed up to it, and especially just back when it's so tame compared to now. Either parents don't care, or it's like, they're gonna watch it anyways, or even they like it, like, oh, here, kids, play with this, sort of thing.
It's bizarre because like you see it across from sets, and it's like this is like a MA rated show. Even Universe and Five Nights at Freddy's stuff, which is even weirder to look at.
That is weird. Yes, I seen the Five Nights at Freddy's, like, wow, and that's something that I didn't touch at all because I don't care for jump scares, and animatronics are a little too spooky. But there they are for the kids.
The weirdest part is that like that it's scary animatronics that it just kind of touches on how a lot of kids and adults now didn't like the animatronics at Chuck E. Cheese or
and then got
Bob or something like
that. Got closed.
Rockafire Explosion. Those scared the bejesus out of me then, and they still terrify me now. I don't like mascots. I don't like animatronics. No. Five Nights at Freddy's scared the crap out of me. Not because jump scares, but because I don't like animatronics.
Some of those things have a lot of teeth.
On a non-TV topic, has gained a terrible reputation. Not only because it's completely oversaturated the market at this point, both the YouTube market of everyone and their mother has to make videos on it just for the sake of views. You got like 4 games in a year and a half.
It seems like they're still making games, even though I think one was called, I could be wrong, one was called The Final Fright or Night, I don't even know. Then they got Sister Location.
I think
and honestly, it's like really dark stuff too, like whoa.
The recent one is supposed to be the end one, the like pizzeria simulator thing, or But God only knows. I know that we're still supposed to get a movie.
Oh, I
years
forgot
ago.
about that.
Real animatronics, and like, nah.
That'd be a horror movie. Hey kids, come see Five Nights at Freddy's.
That's the weird part. Is like
it'll probably be PG-13.
Love Five Nights now.
Maybe.
Is it going to be PG-13? Is it going to be PG?
I don't know.
I don't know.
They should be R or even NC-17. But if they're gonna, but knowing them, they're gonna try and reach a bigger audience and get it PG-13. Just saying. They might not though. Deadpool seems to be making R more relevant these days.
Deadpool without it being R though, considering he's and everything that comes out of his mouth is dirty in some way. Animatronics don't talk, but I mean, there's still death and gore and death. So I imagine it would have to be PG-13.
That's just a guess. I forgot about that one. But since you just mentioned about that, the video game, the one I will mention is Undertale. That seems to get a lot of flack. And the only reason I know about it, besides being on every YouTube channel, was in Splatoon. I would see it all the time in the Miiverse posts. I'm like, what am I looking? I mean, I pieced it together eventually, but I was like, kept seeing stuff of flowery. I don't even know. Flowery. I can't say it right. I think I watched Pro Jared play it. It's just, it looks like a fun game. They really tried to make. I mean, it looks like a good game, but that's one where I think the fandom probably really hurt it more than anything. It's just where it's just in your face all the time. It's like memes online. It's like I don't want to see this anymore. Stop it.
I played Undertale when it was still relatively new because I like the Mother series a lot. I love Earthbound. Mother 3 is one of my favorite games of all time, honestly. So touching, like, oh man, I want to do this. It's like Mother mixed with Toho because Toby Fox likes both of those things. And I enjoyed it. It was a very short experience, but like the choices you had to get different endings kind of prolonged it a bit. First, from lack of replayability, in my opinion, but it's still a decent game. But then you got a lot of people who were latching on to other aspects of it, like, oh, the dark ending where you kill people and there's angst, and now we're going to take this one like goofy character and make him extra angsty and make 9,000 different alternate universe versions of him. Now we're going to give him a glowing blue wiener, and it's like, oh god, what happened? This was like a unique innocent game, and now there's glowing blue wieners and like edgy versions of skeletons everywhere. Don't F the skeleton.
Oh,
Stop. I'm not seeing that.
It's time to stop.
It got to the homestuck point of like everyone and their mother needed like a skeleton, be it just another version of Sans or like their own OC again, which was usually just like some AU with Sans, kind of like everyone needed fan trolls back then, and you just see so much of it where it's almost a joke, and then game theory happened and Ness is Sans, and that's the joke. Now it's Sans, Undertale is Ness.
Yeah, that's all I ever actually hear. I didn't realize it was them that started it, but
theory, and then he did no better by giving the Pope a copy of Undertale, and then it was just a joke. It was like, holy shit, you went that far?
Wow.
When you gave him a video game that you said Ness was Sans, okay. So. It's sad to say that such a good game almost just became a joke because princes and things that happen outside of the game.
Kind of goes
That's the thing with cartoons too. Like, look at My Little Pony. Oh my god, innocent show, gone to hell.
Yeah, that probably goes into fandoms where I would say most people don't try to go into fandoms, but they like to try and meet other people who share a common interest in the show. And sometimes it gets awful. So, let's see. Get back to cartoons a little bit. When I first mentioned this topic, the one cartoon you thought of was Teen Titans Go.
Yes.
I've seen very little. I remember seeing him like, I don't know. It's when I first discovered MLP too, because I just was flipping between these two channels when I was driving through California at a hotel, and it's like, oh, what's this? And with Teen Titans Go, it was just like, oh, it's the same characters, but cheap Flash animation? Okay. And I don't know, it's one where they all die. I don't remember what it was. Beast Boy was taking jokes too far, and everybody's dead in the end. Like, that's how this ends? So, I don't know how early that is. Then I found out that everything about the show is pretty awful. And that might be a matter of opinion, because it's not aimed at me, but it seems to be apparently very popular with the kiddies these days.
Go is...
And then it's getting a movie now.
It's a cartoon.
Yeah, it's a cartoon.
I can say that in the most general sense of the word of Teen Titans Go is a cartoon in the same way that like SpongeBob is a cartoon, or...
It's like taking the property and doing the least amount of effort, in my opinion, and just like, okay, let's just do wacky things and make a cartoon out of it. And I hate to say it's just because of the previous Teen Titans, which was just rather in-depth, and I didn't watch the entire series because I was not able to. You really felt the feels sometimes. Ugh.
Lately, Cartoon Network has been re-airing old episodes of Teen Titans, and I've been able to catch it due to my schedule. They tend to pop up around, like, kids get out of school, around, like, that
3 o'clock window
area. Yeah, and I'm out of work at, like, 3 p.m., so I catch it. And yeah, especially seeing it back-to-back with Go, it's almost jarring, because Teen Titans Classic... Based on the relations of the characters, there's a lot of action. It's very down to earth. Like Robin in particular is very much a leader, and everyone's a teenager, but they're still heroes. Cyborg is very down to earth. He's very in tune with the fact that not only is he a black man, but he's also a cyborg. He's a cyborg, so he's
nobody likes him. That's what you're saying. He has to deal with that. It's like very real problems for these adolescent superheroes.
You can see why Raven is like almost a goth in terms of personality. Like it goes in, it doesn't straight out say it because it's a kid's cartoon, but like her mother was raped by a demon. She had to leave her like home planet to actually like keep it safe and keep her mom safe, and she's fighting against her demon heritage and trying not to become part of it. Beast Boy lost his entire family and he's trying to do his own thing and trying to make a family on his own. Starfire is an alien who was, about to be imprisoned, and she made friends and she's trying to still learn the customs of it all. And there's a lot of heartfelt, because all these characters are very in-depth and all their backstories matter, while Go takes each of their personalities way more at face value and takes those goofy moments of the characters and makes an entire show based around it. And I think that's why it gets so much flack, because you can't have these characters without their more serious undertones. That's just not how they were made. Cartoon, though, it's made for kids who didn't grow up with the original Teen Titans and probably don't care much for it, even though it's being aired again.
It might be part of the movie.
So it gets a lot of flack. Yeah.
This probably, yeah.
It also completely rewrites some of the characters. Like, Robin were a couple in the original, and Starfire actually had more feelings towards Robin. Yeah. Starfire, though it was like mutually.
Gosh, I really
Robin is like head over heels for Star, who doesn't give a shit about him, and like he's willing to sabotage other people to like try to get in her pants, and like actually rents out her toothbrush to have it in his mouth. It's creepy, honestly.
Yeah, some of that stuff, I don't even know. It's like, I can see the jokes being funny, but with the characters they've chosen, it's like, yeah, I would say you're probably not supposed to compare it to, but how can you not when what came before it, especially now, as you said, they're airing them both.
That's the biggest thing. It's like, I see why they're airing it, to try to satisfy like the old fans as well. Like, hey, we didn't forget, considering their San Diego Comic-Con like banner where they had the original Teen Titans beating the crap out of the Go Teen Titans.
Well, that sounds awesome.
I can actually link you to it if you want to put it in the description.
That'd be good, yeah.
Itself for not being as good as the original Teen Titans. So it just keeps mentioning what came before it, and if it didn't do that and tried to be its own like slice of life kind of thing, like anime does from time to time too. Like, I know Naruto did like this chibi version of like the show, and it was more lighthearted. Haruhi Suzumiya did it. I never watched either of those. Attack on Titan does it. I never watched that one either, but I know they all do it. It's way more lighthearted, and there's no like drama. Reference the original, so Go is just kind of shooting itself in the foot every time that it does it. If it just wanted to be its own thing and be a cartoon or whatever, sure, it would still get flack because it's taking like with their same voices and their same designs and their same everything and just changing it. Redesign the characters. Like the other direct-to-DVD DC movies don't have any trouble redesigning the characters. Even the other Teen Titans movies don't use the like show's designs, but Go did, and I think that's part of the biggest problem, is that they just took a source material and parodied it too hard.
In there too, right? I mean they all seem to sound the same, so I'm pretty sure they got the same people.
It's the opposite of what Powerpuff, honestly.
Well, yeah. We'll get to that one. I just wanted, when I was first learning about Teen Titans Go, that's when I was getting into Gravity Falls. They are two different shows. It just kind of made me angry when Gravity Falls really had to work hard to get to that second season because it almost didn't happen. And Teen Titans Go just seems to get greenlit and keeps going. I can't even think how they would end the show because, like Gravity Falls, they ended it rather well. It'd probably just be like, it's another dumb adventure, or who knows? Maybe the movie will be the end of the show. It's not a guarantee, but
I highly doubt it, considering how much it nets.
It seems it seems to make a lot of money. I'd say to add on the more hate, I think because I never watched the show regular show, I'm told it's down to earth humor that I probably need to see at some point. But its finale happened, and they didn't seem to announce it. They only just aired Teen Titans Go around it. That's a scummy thing to do, especially those who watched the show and probably missed it for that reason.
Yeah, that's
I've only
that's
heard
a
about
huge
that.
deal
That's
too.
It's just
regular
like
show is really good.
It's like other shows have to work so hard because of that show.
I started college, or at least I was in the beginning of my college run. And it was played a lot. It was, later on in the day. It was right before Adult Swim every night or like every other night or something like that. So it knew its audience. It knew it was going to be like the later middle school, high school, even young college kids getting ready to sit down and watch like actual adult cartoons. It would occasionally throw it in like, an afternoon slot. It kind of paired itself up with Adventure Time, which was also new at the time. And it handled well. Original run for it got a decent amount of airtime. But as it continued, you stopped seeing it. And I would just see that there were new episodes just through the grapevine of it being like posted on Facebook or posted on some blog somewhere. There would be screenshots and they'd be like, wait, there was a new episode? Wait, there was a whole season? Wait, there's been 2 seasons? Wait, it's going to end? What? It's like I missed an entire chunk of Adventure Time, which I never fully liked because it kind of takes the filler of Steven Universe and cranks it up to 11, where like the plot doesn't really matter at all.
Wow, really? Because I need to catch up on that because it's going to end. And
I know now it's more plot related, but like...
Well, it seems like it's very subtle with how it does its backstory, like why the world the way it is, but... Yeah.
Recently, they've kind of been doing like things like Elements or like the Island ones or whatever, where those were just pure related plot. So like you could just kind of watch those and get to know what the characters are going to go through, while there would be other like almost artsy experimental episodes, and you really didn't have to watch those unless you were really interested in like how they were made. There used to be like was this list of episodes that you would have to watch if you wanted to get the story and just kind of avoid like nonsense episodes, which a lot of anime have too. It's like avoid the filler episodes, watch these episodes, which I know Steven Universe has too. Filler Show and Adventure Time kind of happened around the same time, and they were both huge hits. They had merchandise. They were massive amongst my demographic. I know that people were constantly watching them in like the college lounge and all that. And they just totally lost attention, but just attention from Cartoon Network. Things like Uncle Grandpa and the like did this too. When Go came out, Clarence as well, were shadowed, or they wouldn't be played at all. Steven Universe and Gumball are getting similar problems. We Bear Bears as well. Cartoon Network's getting a little bit better. On my days off and on weekends, I'll throw Cartoon Network on in the background because you'll actually get some other shows going on. Like today, I know I watched We Bear Bears and Original Teen Titans and Gumball, and there's something else that was on. I don't remember.
On Gumball. It's but and I've fallen behind on We Bear Bears. That's just
We Bear Bears is really relaxed.
Yeah,
and I like it because it's chill.
I guess that's the best way to put it, chill. You do enjoy it, and there's development.
Adventure Time was on today, too. That's what it was. But, let's Go playing. Of course, Go is still playing, but, like, I have a 50-50 shot if it's going to be something else or if it's going to be Go. Well, actually, it's more like a 50-25-25 shot. It's going to be Go, Amazing World of Gumball, or something else. I'm fine with Gumball, though. Go not only shot itself in the foot from its source material, but it's got the SpongeBob syndrome of it's like the only thing that the network cares about. Like maybe during their last marathon, they didn't get as many views as they wanted, so maybe they're changing it up a bit because I've noticed a lot more variety in what they're airing. The kids are starting to get burned out, and like they don't want to lose their cash cow, so they're like, let's reel it back a bit so we don't lose every viewer before our movie. I don't know. But that's what it seems to be doing. My thesis on Teen Titan Go. I mean to go on about that for 10 minutes.
Well, it's one of those shows that gets a lot of hate, and they all don't get hate for all the same reasons.
But I just want to hate it.
It's like, I mean, it's been done to death. Everybody hates the show, and they make a video about why the show is awful, and their top 10 worst episode and stuff like that.
I don't even say that the show is awful. I'll just say that it's a cartoon that honestly doesn't need to use the characters that it uses. I feel it would be way more successful, at least in terms of like
be fun if they used other lesser known DC. I mean, to me, it's just them using a license that's well known, and and then probably not doing that much effort into it. Like if they got Swamp Thing in there, that'd be fun. There's a DC no one uses.
It's almost like it gained traction just out of the pure notoriety of what it did to the original source material, and then like kids just picked it up because it was wacky and goofy, but kids would have picked it up regardless of who the characters were, so that doesn't really matter at all. Kids that watch it didn't even really exist when the original Teen Titans was around, so like they got the attention of the older audience simply out of the notoriety of it, and the younger kids are just watching it because there's like waffles and lol-so random humor. It's kind of a really weird... It's like, hey, look what we're doing to your old favorite show, haha, and everyone's like, I'm going to watch this because I hate it. And all the kids are like, hey, it's goofy, I'm going to watch it because it's goofy. And all the older people are like, how dare you like this baby show for babies? It's shitting on my childhood. It's like, holy shit, okay.
Almost sounds like the opposite effect of MLP. It was just where they tried to do something different and put actual effort into it, and you get the audience you didn't expect.
Is like fantastic because like they actually cared about a license for the first time in like its existence.
I mean, I think Hasbro learned probably after so many Transformer reboots that it's like, we can still sell toys, but we won't. But unless we put actual care into our properties, I mean, because it honestly looks great too. I'm just surprised it looks as good as it does, because I just think how Teen Titans look, it's just that maybe that's gotten better. I don't know. I don't watch it because I don't know if the animation's gotten better. But
it has not.
Like, I'm trying to think of. I mean, there's a lot of. I think Cubo. If anybody knows what Cubo is, it's just where old cartoons just show up, and they have a network for it. Like Ned the Newt. I don't know if you even know what I'm talking about, but it's back in Fox Kids days. It's just this. It's like the same time Little Shop of Horrors had its own cartoon, which is this bizarre.
Oh yeah, that was around the time when I was starting to be like, if it's not on Nick, I don't like it.
Well, I mean, it's not a good show either, but just like I remember this show because it's really old shows that who knows, the license probably expired. Like, hey, let's put them all on one network that nobody watches, and
better like someone just scooped up the rights because the original creators.
Well, it's kind of like with I'm trying to think when that was. It might have been 15 years ago at this point. Just a side note, like It's a Wonderful Life. NBC accidentally did not renew the copyright on it. So for like a year or two, every channel had It's a Wonderful Life on TV. Every channel had it. Then they renewed it, and now it's only on NBC. Because it's funny to think that the copyright went to its limit and nobody noticed.
One of those things, well, especially because like copyrights are being totally effed with because of Disney constantly like
public domain,
going to court and messing with copyright laws because they don't want to lose Mickey. Even though I feel like the best way to get around copyright, the best way to rewrite copyright law is like if it's actively being used by the creator, like domain. But if it's not actively being used by anyone, like public domain.
Well,
I feel like that's a really easy way to just.
Well, it sounds right, but it sounds like money gets in the way. It's just like I can make money off. I could sell this.
It's a simple concept.
I think they're probably trying to make complicated, just so.
Yeah,
people don't. Yeah.
Instead of being like this will go public domain after 200 years, just be like if the original creator isn't still actively using it or hasn't sold it off to someone who is actively using it, don't let it go public domain. It should be as simple as that.
Yeah, plus a
creator
public
died
domain thing coming up. Yeah.
Died and didn't sell off the property. Just have it go public domain.
Yeah, I remember before Henson died, he was talking with Disney about, buying the rights to it. And, Disney does own Muppets now, so it probably went through at some point. I don't know when. Probably Muppet Treasure Island or Muppet Christmas Carol.
Time around then.
Yeah.
Them entirely.
Let's see. Oh, let's go, because I'm not as familiar, but I've seen a lot of videos online talking about it. The Powerpuff Girls reboot. If you want to call it a reboot, I'm not even sure if that's the right word. Oh no, it's a troublesome. We don't have to spend as much time on it. But
Okay.
it's not the same creators behind it. It's not the same voice actors behind it, probably because it costs too much. But they have like a lot of the same characters, or they change things for really dumb reasons. But I'm not as familiar with it. How about you?
The new Powerpuff Girls is like if someone who'd never seen the Powerpuff Girls wanted to write.
For the
Okay, so the style of the new series is total garbage. The original Powerpuff Girls was based on that more retro, like Oopa style going on with the thick outlines and everything's like flat and geometric. Because that was the style then. Dexter's Lab did the same thing. Everything's really geometric and sharp. But with Powerpuff Girls, it worked because it was an action-based show, and having everything be like, and all that, it worked. It just showed how dynamic things could be, and everything adhered to a model sheet like perfectly because it had to do that based on its shapes. The new Powerpuff Girls, however, completely guards that the art direction is all over the place. The girls and the old characters all still have the same, I'm going to air quote this, design, despite now being more rounded, not adhering to the original model sheets based on the designs at all, which makes it really awkward from time to time. They've all got these thin lines that don't work with how their styles were created. Because of this, the new background characters or new villain designs, which are all based on that more modern Cartoon Network style of like Clarence and We Bare Bears and all that, where everything is round and like organic, it doesn't work. And Professor Utonium and the mayor and all of them and flat.
It's kind of that. I want people to say like it's a generic animation you see in all the same shows. Like they could have been in any other of the Cartoon Network shows at the time.
The Teen Titans Go Powerpuff Girl crossover was probably the best new Powerpuff Girls episode.
I heard that was like the best thing for both shows is for them to crossover, which sounds insane to think that was good.
Is because for some reason they based that episode around beating Mojo Jojo, and that was a common plot in the old Powerpuff Girls, and old Teen Titans that always had like a villain. While new Teen Titans doesn't usually have a villain, and it's like slice of life goofy, and new Powerpuff Girls is usually just slice of life boring nonsense. The worst episodes of the original Powerpuff Girls, aside from Powerpuff Girls' best rainy day adventure ever, they were just doing nonsense, like slice of life things. It would be like this happy medium of like Powerpuff Girls being girls, and then a villain comes, and then into whatever they were doing that day, while modern Powerpuff Girls are just like, who needs a villain? To have the Powerpuff Girls rapping or twerking or some nonsense, like going to a beauty pageant and him is there for some reason, and her dad has gone undercover for like fraud, so she has to live with the Powerpuff Girls, and then she's gonna betray him, and no, I want to see the girls actually beating something up, but like the new fights are they're not dynamic at all anyway, so who gives a crap if they're fighting anyone, because it's just boring. It's got that same problem that most action in modern cartoons has anyway, is no one knows how to board it, and it's just dull. And there's censoring because you can't show someone punching someone else, so bleh. When it comes to adapting characters to a modern style, it's so rarely done right that there's just no point to it. The best example of it I could think of is when there was the Captain Planet episode of OKKO, where they adapted the characters into OKKO style. Like the characters But at the end, they adapted the OKKO style to the Captain Planet style, and it was hilarious. I loved
there's only one.
every
Yeah, they got the
second of
same
that.
voices. That was probably the best part about it.
The thing with Powerpuff Girls is that everyone has their original voices, except for the Powerpuff Girls and Princess, stand out even more. Original show.
Yeah,
It's a joke.
It's weird how they. I don't even know what they're trying to go for. I mean, it's like they say they want to make it new, for everybody, but a lot of the characters require you to know about the original show, and like because you have Mojo Jojo, and I don't know if they ever bring up how the Powerpuff Girls were made in the new one.
They have. I just know that they retconned it and gave them an older sister, and it doesn't make any sense.
Oh, is that what the fourth one is?
It was like
the Poochie or whatever you want to call that.
it was like W or something like that, and I'm like, why? And they even mentioned it's like, how many times you try to make girls? And the professor was like, oh, like 23 times. Like, that's not funny.
I'm laughing now, but
Trying to make the perfect little girl, and then he effed up, and then he was like, this is fine.
This is fine.
Several times, and fail every time, and just continue. How would you make that mistake over 20 times? Worst part is Blistina, which is probably the worst name they could have given her. It's not even a name. Why did they name her Blistina? They could have just named her Bliss. Why did they name her Blistina? That's absolutely stupid.
That is weird.
The professor tried to make the perfect little girl, chemical into there, and it turned her into a ruthless...
Is she still on the show?
Apparently she's coming back, from what I saw.
Oh, right. So she went away. I didn't watch it. I don't care to watch it.
You know Poochie, right? I have to go back to my home planet.
Well, yeah, and Poochie died on his way.
They
I know Poochie.
did that. They literally did that,
shark, adding more characters because I don't know, they can't write anymore with what they have, which is almost weird to say. Like, it's not like they got plenty to work with. Although I will say, I don't know why
did that. Like Saturn, I think it was Saturn was going to crash into the Earth. And Bliss was like, I have to return this back to space. I'm the only one with enough power. And she literally left to space with Saturn.
Wow. That's so self-aware at that point.
It's literally Poochie. Original Powerpuff Girls did it well in the way of, like, they were in school, but, like, they were the superheroes, so they could just leave school and their teacher would be like, that's fine.
The mayor's calling. We gotta... Yeah, I mean...
Phone in the classroom. Oh. So, like, if Miss Keene was ever like, you can't do that, then...
Well, I guess the town... I guess Townsville's getting destroyed.
Parodied it in that episode where they went to the town of Citiesville. They were trying to say, oh, we have to go stop that, and their teacher was like, no. Stay in your seat. That episode is, like, very poorly regarded, but, like, I think it did that pretty well.
It's still on, right?
It's still on.
He says she's coming back, so...
But, yeah, I saw, like, a promo from Cartoon Network, and it was, like, Bliss in some... I'm like, oh, good, she's coming back. Great.
Oh, she's coming back. Change the locks. I'm trying to think of other shows. The only show I can think of, but I don't know enough, is the new Ben 10. And I did watch the original. Like, I remember renting the DVDs one point. And it was a really interesting show. It had very Jackie Chan episode Adventures-esque, but monster aliens. And, they're selfish little kids, but the stories, I really enjoyed the grandpa. Oh no, I can't remember his name. I'm terrible. It's Grandpa, right?
That's their grandpa. I can't remember his name either.
Oh man, that's terrible. I can't think of the name. Well, I didn't grow up with it, but it seems like it had a lot of spin-offs, but it looked like they did it again, where it's like the Powerpuff Girls situation, where we're just doing it again. Here you go. It's like is the timeline of the original, not the other spin-offs. I don't even know about those.
Yeah, from what I understand, I didn't grow up with Ben 10 either. By the time it came out, I was already, like, well into my teens. So, like, I didn't get into it. My cousins were super into it, though, so I did see a good chunk of it. Friend who was really into it, despite her being my age, so, like, through that was kind of weird how it didn't hit me, but it hit her. The original Ben 10, 2 series that came after it were all related. It was like Ben 10, Ultimate Alien, and then there was like another one. Alien Force, I think it was. They were all part of the same.
Alien Force, and there's like Omniverse, something like that. I didn't watch it.
One that was styled like the Wind Waker, that was like the 4th one. It was like a huge deviation from how things looked. That was its like own retelling.
That almost sounds familiar, but I can't even picture that Ben's face on Link's body. So,
well, it kind of did like the lanky anime style thing, but like they all had Wind Waker eyes, and everyone's like, "This looks weird," and I'm like, "It looks like Wind Waker." I understand that was like a reboot.
Max, Grandpa Max, there it is. I remembered it now.
I didn't watch any of that. Some of like Omniverse, some of Alien Force, and a good chunk of the original.
Omniverse, which seemed to have a little different style, but was that the one that had Wind Waker? Because I can see it with the animation. It seemed a little more detailed, but who knows?
Anyway, as I'm looking it up, the new one is just that was Omniverse. Okay, so I did see a little bit of that one.
I think it's just called Ben 10 2016 or something. Or that's how they...
In Ben 100.
I don't even know. I guess what I heard good about it, I don't know which series it was that Kevin 11 just, they had their differences, but he's like, all right, I'll work with you, and then they become pals or something. Which I was like, what? Really? We did that? That seems...
Apparently Omniverse didn't run super long. It was only running for 2 years. No wonder I barely saw any of it.
I wonder how many spin-offs. Yeah, I'm pretty sure. I don't know. I was just thinking, does Nickelodeon suffer any of this? Does it do anything like this?
Usually.
It still has SpongeBob. That's all I know. That's all it has.
Recent thing I've seen is that they're making like their old series, and like I saw the Hey Arnold one, and it was pretty okay. It definitely suffered from originally being like a and having to be cut down for TV. Like I feel like it was rushed in points. Pretty okay. It was definitely faithful to what it came from. It just had some plot holes. Rocco looks pretty... I'm definitely going to watch it. I liked Rocco a lot. I like it more as an adult, too. I feel it was definitely way more of an adult cartoon.
Oh, that's the show I
And Invader Zim is coming back. We haven't seen anything on that, but like the comics are pretty good, so I
didn't know that was actually finalized to come back. Okay.
A lot of flack for also random humor, but like I think it's pretty decent for its time. I still get a good chuckle out of it from time to time. I think it just has a lot of going back to the original topic of cartoons, it gets a lot of flack. Zim gets a lot of flack because that's just how Johnny Vasquez kind of is. He's like dark in a more zany way instead of like dark in the Tim Burton way. And it had to be toned down a good chunk for like Nickelodeon. You can't be too dark. You got to put some comedy in there, or Also, Zim is like literally malfunctioning. Like part of his character is the like on his back is just broken. He's absolutely insane.
I have to see how those shows do. Hopefully, not like the other ones.
Well, they're not going to be whole shows. They're just going to be like movies.
Oh, okay. I'm just trying to
The
think.
Modern Life one, I think, is like an anniversary movie thing, but the Invader Zim one is based on like I know Jonan actually had an idea for a TV movie that was supposed to end the series, so I'm wondering if it's just going to be that.
You'll get like kind of like the Samurai Jack to kind of give it an ending, anyways.
I don't like how Hey Arnold that was the planned ending for the series. Like I said, I think they might have trimmed the fat a bit because, it was going to be a TV movie and not like a theatrical one. So I think it was only like an hour long instead of like, which I think the Invader Zim one was planned to be like a TV movie anyway. So I'd love to see how that goes. Rocco one though, it's just Rocco in modern times. I I think that's just kind of like a, hey guys, we remember Rocco, and the creator had an idea for like actual modern life Rocco. And the show literally ended with them like going into space in the future and all that, and now they're just continuing from there. So I think that's kind of funny. So I want to see how that goes.
Oh, okay. I'm trying to think of
It used to
Disney.
be a lot better with its reboots than Cartoon Network. Cartoon Network is giving like no respect to the original properties, while Nickelodeon is giving the utmost respect to theirs. Way more into Nicktoons than I was cartoons as a kid, so I almost feel like it's paying off.
Oh, yeah. Again, I didn't grow up with Cartoon Network or Nickelodeon. It was the Disney Afternoon and One Saturday Morning and Fox Kids and Kids WB. That was me. That's just before my time. Again, this is before internet, and well, I didn't have cable, so it was whatever the air could give me.
A lot of the public access stuff, but like cable when I was just about starting kindergarten. So like that was my formative years, and I remember watching all of that. Though we didn't have Cartoon Network until like our cable provider actually moved it to a channel that we were able to get. It was originally like channel like 67 or something, and on old CRTs most of the time they didn't go up past like 50. So sometimes I would get a really buggy picture of like the Jetsons or something playing on Cartoon Network, but I wouldn't actually get Cartoon Network until I was like 7 or 8. Like Nickelodeon, yay!
Because we're talking about reboots now, I was trying to think of shows that get a lot of flack, but they've had a lot of one-off shows.
Was in the Renaissance, they tried to make shows out of all their
oh yeah, that's
movies,
right.
and they weren't usually good.
Well, I think I remember liking the Aladdin animated series, and
I didn't get a chance to see
the Hercules
it too
show
often.
was just, I watched a little bit of it. It was just honestly a little beyond my time, but yeah.
On ABC
I
Saturday
think what
morning.
else there was.
It was okay.
Aladdin.
There was also Little Mermaid. I actually liked that one.
Oh yeah,
I didn't Mermaid movie, but I liked the show.
that seems all right. I remember as a kid, I didn't like the Mermaid movie, mostly because I'm a boy, like at 6 or 7 years old, and everyone in class. I mean, it was just like preschool. We were gonna go see a movie, and twice we saw Little Mermaid, and I'm like, no, I don't see all dogs go to heaven. Nope, Mermaid again.
I didn't grow up with it, and then as I got older, I guess I was just too old to relate to Ariel, so I just didn't really care for it. She seems like a brat to me, and I just don't really care for her as a protagonist. I respect the movie for being the first movie in the Disney Renaissance, but like I think every movie that came after it did everything a lot better.
I think the only
TV
thing I
show.
could think of. I'm trying to think. Well, we talked about Disney's Doug before, when I guess Disney bought Doug from Nickelodeon. And I remember seeing people like, we don't talk about Disney, Doug. And that's the one I essentially grew up with. I don't know. I think I wound up liking the show. It was very, I guess, down to earth, sort of a regular problem kind of cartoon. It was, to me, a balance between some of the other crazy, zany cartoons I was watching at the time. But I guess comparing it to the original Doug, it's, I don't know, good and bad.
And who's a massive Doug fan, which is probably the weirdest thing I can actually say in this life, but she absolutely adores Doug. She's also a good bit older than me by like 2-3 years, so she grew up with Nicktoons a little longer than I did, and we're in the same area, get Cartoon Network until the same time I did. She was already like 10 or 11, so she also likes cartoons, but not as much as Nicktoons.
Just because I think the mic might have cut out. Who were you saying?
A local friend of mine, one of my best buddies. She needs Doug with a passion because she not only grew up with Nickelodeon Doug, but she adores the way Nickelodeon Doug is written. One of those like, we don't talk about Disney's Doug kind of people.
I saw that on Twitter. I'm like, oh. Because you told me how it ended, and so I don't know. I guess I might even say it had more heart to it.
I vaguely remember Disney's Doug because, like, again, no one talks about it, and I only saw it on like late Saturday mornings and the like because it never played on like actual Disney Channel, And if I was awake early enough for it on Saturday mornings, because I was a
Yeah, I used to get up
notorious
at
sleeper.
6, even earlier, just to make sure I could watch those cartoons in the morning when it was easier.
When I got into like Saturday morning cartoons, it runs from like the Friday night premieres that I had missed between Nickelodeon and Cartoon Network when I got older. So, like Pokemon was on Saturday mornings, or like Digimon was Saturday mornings, Card Captors was Saturday mornings, all that. So I was just all over the place come Saturday mornings. If something wasn't airing due to a sports game, maybe I'd watch something else. So I didn't watch much of Disney's Doug, and I don't really recall any of it aside from the movie. Everyone I know that likes Doug absolutely hates Disney's Doug, and I'm like, okay, I guess I won't watch it.
Well, again, I didn't watch Nickelodeon Doug, and it's gonna sound dumb, but I don't think I even knew it was Nickelodeon Doug. I grew up different cartoons, so when it showed up there, I'm like, oh, like it sounded familiar, like, oh, I guess they brought it over from cable. Because it's funny, I think I saw it at the dentist's office one time, because they're always playing Nickelodeon there, and I think I caught one of Doug. So that's right, I also watched Rocko's Modern Life a few times that way. It was just a weird way that I would see other cartoons.
It was if you've got a 90s or like an 80s kid in this area, they were definitely more of a Nickelodeon person than they were anything else. Because like I don't know if it's just the way that zones lined up or like the general broadcasting or just how our signals were received, because I know that some of the channels that some people out west get are completely different from the ones that we get. Like, if it wasn't on ABC Family or Fox, we usually couldn't watch it unless it was on cable. But a lot of, like, those ABC and CBS ones would get interrupted by, like, sports.
Yeah, that sounds right. I'm trying to think what shows CBS was known for. I can only name, like, 3 shows. One was Garfield. I think the Felix the Cat cartoon, which I didn't see much of, I swear, and The Mask. It's the only shows I could think of CBS had.
Yeah, also had Ace Ventura, like the cartoon, which I'd only seen a bit of.
I saw very little. I saw one. The only one I remember is the Hound of the Baskervilles parody they did. I know I watched more of it.
Regular Saturday morning cartoons, I usually didn't see them because I was either like...
You had to split your time, what you could watch.
I also had a lot of VHS tapes, because there was a good amount of time where we just straight didn't have like real TV. Like we didn't have the antennas for like basic cable, or like my dad was still building his house, so he didn't know like an actual like television. So I had a lot of VHS tapes. Like I had a lot of, the kid standards like the Bernstein Bears and Barney and all that. But then I also had a metric ton of Looney Tunes. So, like, when I think of, like, cartoons I watched growing up, pre-Nickelodeon was just a lot of Looney Tunes or, like, VHS tapes. I probably had a good, like, 20 or 30 of them.
As you bring up Looney Tunes, it seems like they've tried to bring back Looney Tunes a few times, and I don't think it went so well.
Because I kind of like the whole, down-to-earth thing using classic characters. Almost like their downtime filming actual shorts. I think that's funny. I have not seen any of Wabbit, though.
I haven't either. That seemed like just showed up like, what? No one told me this was around, so I'll have to check it out. I'm hearing mixed things about it, though. But with the
screen caps, and it looks charming, but I don't know how the writing is.
Yeah. I've watched very little of the Looney Tunes show that came back, and people I heard a lot of similarities to Seinfeld when they would talk about it. And to be fair, when you talk about some of the old Looney Tunes ones, yes, there was a lot of slapstick, but a lot of it was just talking, and it was just like subtle jokes back and forth. It might just be a product of the times. It's hard to recapture and do that same thing now, especially with different people who are, if they try to or not, try to pay homage. Especially if you don't pay homage, like we've seen with a lot of other cartoons, it doesn't seem to do very well.
I feel like the Looney Tunes show did really well capturing the spirit of original Looney Tunes, but in a modern time. I do like the sitcom way of doing things, because, like, original Looney Tunes was almost just a slightly more cartoony rendition of, say, like, I Love Lucy or something like that, like the more cartoony live-action shows. with what it had, but that was the comedy of the time. It still holds up today because it's a very pure form of comedy. The pop culture references that it uses are so tongue-in-cheek that you could still laugh at it today despite not knowing the original source material. Looney Tunes Show, I feel, does the same thing. All of its like pop culture references, from what I recall, I haven't watched it in a couple of years, very like simple. It wasn't like going the South Park route of like being direct about it. And like it was still genuinely funny. I didn't much care for like the musical like in between segments of the episode for the most part. I feel like it wasn't needed and it was just padding runtime, but like, and I really like how Bugs and Daffy like go against each other on that. And I like the inclusion of Porky almost being like the straight, like neurotic man, like the George of the group.
I found the jokes to be pretty funny, especially Daffy, because it went the other way with the joke, and just, man, it's like, man, he really did some crazy stuff.
The freaking joke that they had with Bugs and Daffy meeting each other before they became roommates was just, I was in stitches. Someone posted the clip on Twitter recently, and I almost lost my freaking mind. Really coming up behind Bugs at like a post office, being like, "Hey, got a stamp?" And Bugs just kind of gives to him, "You got anything else?" It's like, holy shit.
That's right. I saw that.
He's just like, chill about it.
Yeah, it's like, yeah, that's how I met. It wasn't like some epiphany moment. Yeah, it was just like, yeah.
Yeah, that's another show that has some notoriety, both in the sense of like some people hated it because it wasn't like Looney Tunes. It wasn't trying slapstick and just like classic vaudeville kind of humor. But because of that, it was its own unique thing, and I think it did really well. And its recharacterization of Lola was just amazing. It made her more than just eye candy.
It seems split when they talk about Lola. She seemed to do just fine. To me, she kind of seemed like a grown-up version of Babs Bunny when I would see that. And that might just be me, because that was the cartoon I also grew up with, was Tiny Toons.
That too.
I mean, I would. It probably wasn't based off of that, but yeah, I do like how she's characterized there, and as you said, not the one note from Space Jam. So, yeah, there's sometimes some of her, I guess I say, deranged moments are a lot like Daffy's. Like, wow, this went a little too far.
That was the only thing that kind of weirded me out from time to time. They made her airheaded, but almost too airheaded from time to time. Like, I get it. Having a Daffy-esque character go against Bugs is probably your best route because that's just who Bugs is as a character.
Yeah, he can be very, very straight man on that, but he's funny.
Bugs is goofy, but he's always been like a sarcastic kind of goofy. So making Lola more like dumb... It worked because before she was just the girl. She was your really generic 90s female character who was just kind of thrown in there for the sake of, hey, we have a girl.
It seems like we've gone through a lot of these. I am curious to see how they're going to do Animaniacs. Because I'm half and half on Animaniacs. There's a lot of it I liked. There's a lot of it I didn't like. And that might have just been some of the side characters. Like, I didn't ever care for the pigeons. And it might just because I didn't get the references they were doing with the pigeons, honestly.
Yeah, same.
That was like... I'm pretty sure it was Godfather, but it's like... I'm a kid and I never watched Godfather, so... I wish it did more Minerva stuff, because honestly, that was kind of crazy with... I cannot think of the werewolf's name now. But she seemed too risque to put on a kid's show. And when you look at it, it's like, yeah, I can see why. But considering what they got away with, if you compare it to that, I'm surprised they got them on that.
When it comes to Animaniacs, it was admittedly my least favorite of the like Steven Spielberg cartoons as a kid. I think because a lot of adult humor that I didn't get as a kid. I haven't rewatched it since. Maybe I would get it more now since, I've had more worldly...
I mean, yeah, there was... True. I mean, there was stuff I'm sure I didn't get the references to and watching. I'm like, oh, I get that joke. Much like how I watch old Simpsons and I still get jokes I missed.
What'll happen. So, like, I'll try to rewatch the show before the new thing comes out. My only question is, like, are they going to stick with that idea, or are they going to make it more modern and start referencing, like, more recent stuff?
mean, I knew it was Spielberg when he was in there. I'm like, but when
Particular, which is like
what was
massive
it?
Godfather references.
Yeah, I did. I mean, I didn't mind the pigeons. I did enjoy the joke with, I don't know, the angry pigeon who would always take the thing the wrong way, even though it was explained to him. Like, that's not what I meant. Like, I didn't mind that. That's probably the only thing.
Yeah, I think that might have just been the weakest part of old Animaniacs. Is I just didn't get it at the time. So maybe I'll like
That's gonna be an interesting test to see how they do with this show.
Rocco more recently. I that's one of those shows I go back occasionally and I'll just rewatch a couple episodes. I enjoy it way more now as an adult, now that I like understand.
Well, with that show, we do know that the writers tried to put every dirty joke they could in there and just see what could get past the censors.
Part now that I'm an adult too, it's just like, holy shit, look at all of this. How did they
how'd
do
get
that?
that in there?
So maybe with that I'll get it more, especially because now I feel like they'll be making it for fans of the original, so they'll relate to a lot of references of the time we grew up. Don't know. That's the thing. It's so broad in what they can do. They can make it a kid show again.
Yeah, I guess.
Audience that's going to be hyped for it.
I guess I don't know. I'm assuming Pinky and the Brain are going to be in there just because they got their own spinoff. But what would they do? It's just.
Don't know. We don't need another Powerpuff Girls.
No, we don't need another Poochie. We don't need a Teen Titans Go. God.
We don't need another Ben 10, which is just, I never mentioned it before. It's just kind of just like one of those cartoons that like comes on and you're like, oh, that's on, and that's it. Towards it either way, aside from, I don't like the style they're using. It looks like everything else, but like for some reason it's got detailed pupils, not pupils, but detailed, and I don't like that. It looks really weird. I almost feel it would look better with black eyes, but like it just looks like everything else. Another animated show. It's whatever, really. There's nothing that makes it stand out to me. We brought Steven Universe up in previous podcasts, so I'm not going to mention that and like the notoriety that's like involved with it. We mentioned Rick and Morty. My Little Pony is almost self-explanatory. It's a show for kids that was taken in by adults, and those are of varying quality.
Yeah, like that almost sounds like with Rick and Morty, varied in quality of who you talk to.
It's at one's own discretion how you are engaged with the show. You mentioned the notorious Teen Titans Go and Powerpuff Girls. Things of like the 90s and 80s, I don't really have anything to say of because they weren't as common then because animation was a much more expensive process. Less to draw from aside from, you know, the standard, oh, this show was just made to sell toys of the 80s, but, you know, people still look fondly upon them even though they weren't like shows, they were just long commercials. I ironically and unironically love Deke cartoons because I think they're hilariously bad. The Hedgehog is unironically one of my favorite, like, on another property because I think it's just the funniest goddamn thing. No, I know it gets a bad rap, especially compared to like Sad AM, because it's not serious and it looks weird and like it makes no goddamn sense. But I think it's the funniest freaking thing.
Then you got Sonic Boom,
poop material, and
it's just such a different take on that too. That's kind of its own thing, just because the characters. Well, there's characters you didn't have in the original, but
Sonic Boom is okay. I feel like it needs a little more going for it.
I think it's good quality, yeah. I've watched a fair amount of them, and I laugh once in a while. I do enjoy what they do with Eggman, and
I feel that some episodes are just more boring than others, but all in all, it's a pretty quality show. But no, I can't think of anything else.
That's got to be good enough. Let's just. Jeez, there's a lot of ways you can do the show right and wrong.
It's easy to find things like that nowadays that cartoons are cheaper to make now that we don't need like, ink and paint cell animation.
Yeah, it's more streamlined, yeah.